All right, welcome back to math today. We're going to be starting a new lesson, obviously, and today's lesson is to learn to use order of operations. Probably some stuff you remember from the past, but we're going to see if we can teach you a couple new things today. Please write down this goal along with today's date and page number before moving on. And here is your warm-up. I have 4 problems. I want you to answer the following expressions. We'll see if you get the same answers as I do. Show your work if need be. Good luck. So these are the answers you should have received. I don't think they were too hard. They were actually pretty easy, I think. I hope. So if you got them all right, come on over and give me a high five. You should have got 10, 28, 9, and 11. So to solve these things, you probably thought about what do I have to do first, and then what do I have to do next. That means you were starting to think of which order you wanted to do the operations in. That's why we get order of operations. So we have some notes here today. First thing I want you to know is that we're going to be working with numerical expressions. So what is that? That's a mathematical phrase that includes only numbers and operation symbols. So we're not going to work with any variables here. There's going to be no letters, X, Y, or anything like that. Just numbers. So here's a couple examples of some numerical expressions. 4 plus 8 divided by 2 times 6. I want you to put at least one of these in your notes. You don't have to put all 3. 371 minus 203 plus 2, or 5006 times 19. They can be crazy, or they can just be real simple like the last one. What you're going to do for these is you're going to simplify, and you're going to see this word a lot through the rest of the year. Simplify just means find its value, or the other word you usually see is solve. That would be its synonym, solve. So here's a scenario you need to look at. It says Erica and Jamie each tried to simplify 3 plus 4 times 6. And down here you can see what Erica came up with, and you can see what Jamie came up with. We got to figure out who's correct. So Erica decided to do 4 times 6 first. You can see they made that pink. That gave her 24 and then added 3. That gave her 27. Jamie did 4 plus 3 first and got 7. So really what you're trying to do here is you're trying to figure out order of operations. So when an expression has more than one operation, you must know which operation to do first. To make sure that everyone gets the same answer, we use order of operations. And what I bracketed was the definition. So make sure you have that down too. Now as far as Erica or Jamie, you figure out which one is right now before finishing your notes and moving on. And we'll be looking back at this problem as we get into the next couple pages. Come back when you're ready. Okay, so on this slide, I kept the same thing about order of operations at the top. You don't need to write that again. But I do want you to write down this table, which is what the order of operations are. Okay, so the first thing you should always do, and think of this as an algorithm, okay, the first thing you should always do is perform operations that show up in a parentheses. Okay, number 1 is parentheses. There's a lot of different types of parentheses. This is the most common one. Sometimes you'll see these brackets, but most of the time you're going to see this. Okay. The next thing you would do is you'd find the value of the exponents, which was in our previous lesson. If you forgot exponents, look back at that lesson. Then it's multiply or divide. Keyword here is or, because the first one you're going to do is the one that's on the left. So if there was a multiplication and then a division, you would do multiplication first. If there was a division and then multiplication, you'd do division first. Same with adding or subtracting. Again, or, and you're going from left to right. So there's a little acronym we use to remember these things. You've probably heard of please, excuse, my dear, Aunt Sally. Okay? And people call it PEMDAS. Oops. Allie? Sally. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But I changed mine up a little bit. And I don't really use the please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. I just use this. And this is what I want you to write down in your notes. I call it GEMDAS. Okay, G-E-M-D, and I write it like this, A-S. Because math or multiplication or division could come in any order there, addition and subtraction. So the G is the grouping. It's more than just parentheses. There's different brackets you could use, and depending on which bracket you use, depends on which one goes first. So it's grouping, then exponents, then math or division, multiplication or division, and then addition or subtraction. So have this all written down before moving on. All right, if you need a cleaner example, I whipped this together real quick so you could look at it. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but I also said over here that I use GEMDAs for grouping. You don't have to write this down if you wrote down the other page. This just might be easier to read. Okay. So, how do we simplify these things? Well, let's get into practice number 1. I'm always forgetting these numbers. So we need to simplify the expression 15 minus 10 divided by 2. So I'm going to write this over here so we remember this at all times. Now, the grouping part. As you go through this, you're going to be looking for these and kind of use it like a checklist. Do we have any grouping or brackets? Nope. So I'm going to check that off. Are there any exponents? Little numbers next to the base? Nope. I'm going to check that off. So next is multiplication or division. Do we have multiplication or division? We do. We have 10 divided by 2. So I'm going to make that a bracket because then that reminds me that that's the first thing we're going to do. So the first thing we have to do in this problem is do 10 divided by 2. Now I want you to watch how I organize this because as we go through math the rest of the year, it's going to be very important that you always show step by step at below each other. So the original problem you're going to write down, and then below it you're going to do 10 divided by 2, which is 5. Now after I write 5, don't forget to bring down what you didn't touch yet. So now after we have multiplication and division, we don't have anything else, so we're done with that step. And now it's on to addition or subtraction. We only have one, which is subtraction. So we're going to have to do 15 minus 5, and 15 minus 5 is 10. So I'll write the answer below it, and then I circle it so I know that's the answer. Go back to my checklist. Is there any other addition or subtraction? No, we're done. Once you get to the bottom of the list, you know you have finished all your steps. Okay? So write this example down. If you want to do different colors like I did, I think it's helpful to see step by step. When you're done, move on to the next problem. Problem 2, your choice. If you want to write this down in your notes, you don't have to. So I'm going to go back to my checklist, and I can see, I'm going to use black this time. I'm going to see, do I have any parentheses? And yes, I have a parentheses right away. 21 divided by 7. How many times does 7 go into 21? That would be 3 times. So we solve the brackets first, the grouping. Then we bring down everything else, and we put it right below it so we know that we're not missing anything. So now that we've finished the grouping, are there any exponents? I don't see any exponents, so we'll skip that. Next is multiplication or division. We have 9 plus 3, and then we have 3 times 5. So what do we do first? 3 times 5, because that's a multiplication or a division before the addition. So I'm going to put parentheses around it so I know that that's my next step. 3 times 5 is 15. So I write that below there. Aw, I didn't follow my order. It would be 15, red. And then what do we still have? We still have 9 plus. So we bring that down. Do you see any other multiplication or division in the next step? I don't. Now I just see an addition problem. And that means that we're done if this is the last step. We just see 2 numbers, 2 add-ins. And 15 plus 9 would give you 24. Circle it, and I'm done. Okay? So as we go through the process, it's just step by step, follow your checklist, and make sure you don't do anything out of order. Again, your choice if you want to write this one down or not. All right, going to do another problem with you, and it's just a slight different change from what we were just looking at. Now this one does not say 24 at the beginning. It's 2 to the power of 4 plus 6 times 4. So again, we go to our checklist over here on the right. Do you see any groups? I don't see any brackets or anything, so that one's done. Do I see any exponents? I certainly do right here. 2 to the power 4, remember, is the same as 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So what is 2 to the power 4? Well, 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 times 2 is 4. So what's 4 times 4? The answer is 16. So once I solve that, and so you're not confused, I'm going to get rid of this. Once you solve that, what do you do with the rest of the stuff? You bring it down. Plus 6 times 4. So now I'm looking at it going, okay, group's done, exponents accomplished. Now I'm looking for any multiplication or division. Do you see it? If you see it, you notice that our next step will be 6 times 4. 6 times 4 is 24. And then what about the 16 plus? Remember, we have to bring that down because eventually, and now we're going to do it, we're going to have to add them together because we don't have any more multiplication or division. We just have addition or subtraction. In this case, it's addition. So 24 plus 16 is 40, and that's your final answer. Now, hopefully you're doing pretty good on these and you're cruising along with me. This one's got a lot of steps in it, so what I want you to do is give it a shot. I want you to pause the video and try this one, and when you're done trying it and you have all your steps written out, come back and let's see how you did. All right, so this is where we really have to focus on that checklist. We have 24 divided by parentheses 9 minus 6 times 3 squared minus 10. The first thing I want to do is the groupings, and I see a grouping here that's 9 minus 6. So 9 minus 6 is 3. So I did that one, and now so I don't forget anything else, I'm going to bring the rest of it down. And now the second step is I'm going to be looking for exponents. And I do have an exponent, it's 3 squared. 3 squared is 3 times 3, which is 9. So I put 9, and then I bring the rest of it down. 24 divided by 3, we shortened that down earlier, times 9 minus 10. All right, next we're looking for multiplication or division. In this case, I see division first. I see 24 divided by 3 before I see 3 times 9. So I'm going to do 24 divided by 3 first. And 3 goes into 24 8 times. And then what do we do with the rest? We bring it down. So now we have times 9 minus 10. All right, we still have one more multiplication or division problem. That's 8 times 9. So we have to do that first. And that gets you 72. And then you can bring down the minus 10. Okay, now we're done with multiplication or division. We had 2 of them. We had to make sure we did them in the right order. And now all we have left is a subtraction. So 72 minus 10 gives you 62. I ran out of space, so I'll put on the side. So if you got 62 as well, give yourself a pat on the back. You're getting this. You're starting to understand the order. All right, so now we're going to get into some problem solving. So this would be practice number 2, actually, because now we're getting into looking at problem solving. Now, before we start, let me add G, E, M/D, A/S so we don't forget on the side. All right, let's look at the problem. It says, Mr. Kellett bought 6 used CDs for $4 each and 5 used CDs for $3 each. We need to simplify or solve the following expression to find the amount Mr. Kellett spent on his CDs. So what's the important information? One is 6 CDs for $4. The other is 5 CDs for $3. So we need to look at those as 2 separate things and then bring them together. So if we were to write an expression, the way you would want to do it is 6 times 4. That's the first one. Now, so I don't get confused, I'm going to put parentheses around it. And then the other one we have is 5 times 3. I'm going to put parentheses around that. So when Mr. Kellett bought this group, we have this word and in between. Does anyone know what and stands for? You, of course, know that means it stands for adding. So we're going to add these 2 together. Now, the way I wrote this, we have 2 groupings, don't we? We have a parentheses here and a parentheses here. When you have 2 sets of parentheses, you can actually do both at the same time. I'll show you. 6 times 4, what does that equal? 24. 5 times 3, 15. Now, there is something outside the parentheses. That's the plus symbol, so we have to bring that down. So we were able to take care of our groupings. We had no exponents. We did 2 multiplications at the same time because they were in parentheses. Now we just need to add. And 24 plus 15 is 39. But the answer isn't just 39 because it's a word problem. It's $39. And we have to complete a full sentence. So we're going to say, Mr. Kellett spent $39 on CDs. That's how you want to do a word problem. A nice full sentence at the end. Again, we have to look at the problem, identify the information, work out a plan, and solve it, and then give our answer. So make sure you have this written down as an example before moving on. All right, here's your table of contents for today, or sorry, your box of thought. Table of contents. Now remember, with the box of thought, I'm not looking for words, or not looking for numbers, like solving it. I'm looking for you to write it in a words. Write it in a couple sentences. So the first one says you have to explain why 6 plus 7 times 10 equals 76, but 6 plus 7 times 10 equals 130. Tell me what the difference is, and be specific. And the second one is tell how you can add parentheses to the numerical expression you see so that you can get an answer of 72. When you add parentheses, you're basically saying this is the first step you're going to do. Once you have those done, box it off, and you can move on to the quiz. Don't forget to label box of thought. Some people forgot to do that. You missed the heading up here, box of thought. Good luck. And here's your quiz time. Don't forget to label quiz. You have 5 questions. Okay? Remember the order of operations. I wrote it on almost every single problem. You should get in the habit of just writing it over in the corner of your notes, and you'll always look back at it. So good luck with these. Can't wait to see you bring me 5 correct answers. And I'm going to be looking at some excellent notes, all filled out properly, and then you'll get your homework. All right, we have one more lesson this unit. Hang in there.